All right. Please, I'll call this. The May 15th meeting of the SRPC committee to order. I am Paul Rasmussen. Curtis Register, Durham. Mike Babinski, Summersworth. Mark Richardson, Summersworth. Lee Howlett, Milton.
Kate Bouchard, Middleton.
Sarah Reitzman, Newmarket.
Matt Downs, Barrington.
Steve Roundover.
Lindsay Williams, Dover.
Don Manager, Northwood. Rick Ely, Rochester. Lisa?
Lisa Murphy, SRPC staff.
What's that?
I'm not sure. Michael only has first name.
That's.
Oh, that's you. Never mind. Okay. All right.
Okay, then.
Steve.
Ernie from Barrington. Ernie, are you there? Okay. All right, so. Commissioner Roundtable. Any updates from communities?
Katrin isn't here, so I'll speak. I take the risk of speaking on her behalf. Barrington hosted a energy day and really all week, various energy exhibits. We had 3 houses, one of which was mine. Demonstrate, what it can mean if you do solar, if you do a super insulated house, if you, all the pieces that go into that. It was great attendance. We had 15 people for an hour and a half, just talking energy matters in our house. So it was kind of a cool thing.
For Durham, the only real update I have is the Mill Pond Dam removal that may affect any transportation 108 south. Is going to commence either 1 June or 15 June, depending on the fish migration. So that is officially happening this year. I will expect to be duration until November of 26, and then full operations capable on 108 south. And then it looks like they're going to come back in the spring of 27, just double check and sanity check, make sure everything worked out. Actually, the culmination of this like 15 years ago.
Are they gonna do a baseline on fish migration?
They're treating this as a national historical site, so they're doing an environmental species as well. They're literally recording the sound of the dam, the sound of the water, the flow of rate and all that stuff. So they're being very meticulous and thoughtful.
Cool.
Do you guys have a fish ladder over there?
We do, one month.
It's one of the ones that only works really for fish coming in, not going out.
Okay.
Which is one of the issues that we have on during droughts.
Right. Mine's not a Newmarket update, but the Office of Planning and Development at BEA did their spring planning and zoning conference over the weekend. There were very few people in attendance because it was a Saturday virtual conference on Teams all day, but all of the videos are now like up on their YouTube page if anybody wants to watch any of there were some really cool sessions.
And sort of a request for interest, the Durham Waste Management Committee has spent the last 5-7 years trying to push composting programs. So they've done they have a lot of information, education, data that they've collected. They're at the point where they're looking to try to partner with other communities to try to create a more regional interest in composting. Since they currently see the major roadblock to broader composting is simply the lack of commercial composters. And they feel that they can generate more interest at the local level that might draw in more people who would be interested in commercially composting. So if you have any groups in your communities that are interested and would like to learn more about it, reach out to me and we'll try to get them in touch with each other.
Are you talking about food composting?
Well, organics composting, yes, food compost, taking the compost out of your waste stream and thus reducing the amount of stuff you send into the landscape, to the
Thank you for doing that.
Is that a regional project?
You know, that could be potentially up to us, right? I'm just saying, you know, right now, I have a committee in town with a lot of expertise that is now interested in trying to run that information.
I was just gonna add, I'll reach out on Dover's behalf because our solid waste committee has also been exploring this. We added Mr. Cox, bins at our recycling center, but those are overflowing very quickly. And then this whole debate of like what scale does it become appropriate community-wide? So I'll reach out.
Thank you.
Two quick things on Summersworth side. A year from now, the city's gonna transition to a cart-based collection system for trash and recycling. That's Dover and maybe a few other communities that are under contract with Waste Management. It's a trend nationally, it's a trend regionally. If anybody's familiar with the city of Rochester, they've been doing it for probably, 2 decades, I would say. So it's not new, but it's new for us. We are, in our case, we're also going to keep the pay-as-you-throw model with the carts. We're not eliminating that in major part due to financial. So potentially a loss of about $1 million in revenue if we said no to the pay-as-you-throw. And probably more important is the impact on waste itself, because the pay-as-you-throw model incentivizes people to possibly waste less and maybe recycle more, some of the things you guys just were talking about. But the whole cart base going into our neighborhoods and streets and locations is something we're going to be spending the next year on figuring out. Do we need to put parking restrictions in place? Do we, you know, particularly in our dense parts of the city, the downtown is particularly a concern, but FYI, the reason for Waste Management doing it is tied to efficiency, safety, and retention of employees. Lifting and so forth is problematic. So that's something that we'll be going through over the next year. You'll hear more about it on social media and other opportunities to promote it and educate the public on the transition.
Great. One question. Given that Waste Management is projecting they're gonna close the landfill in 7 to 9 years,
Yeah.
how does that impact, this big investment to walk away from?
Well, it's a huge investment. You mean on Waste Management side or the city side of it?
Both.
Yeah, you know, it's an absolute key question, and I think that it's something probably this group, maybe in the near term, should probably tackle more from a regional perspective, involving Waste Management, involving the turnkey folks on what the future looks like. You know, if in fact it's finite, 7 years and we're done, probably need to be starting now about another regional plan. What does that look like? Waste energy, more recycling, new landfill, yes, no, trucking it to Canada. You know, so all those things are concerning. But possibly a role for SRPC, I think, in the future.
I agree. This is my industry. This is what I worked in for all my years. And, you talk to the hauling companies and they give you a straight answer. Within the industry, every one of them in New Hampshire is talking about the future being sending all of our trash and recycling by rail to either Ohio or down to the Carolinas, Pennsylvania or Ohio or down to the Carolinas, where trash tipping fees are, 20 cents. It's versus almost $1. But what's the transportation gonna cost on that? What's the infrastructure in New Hampshire going to be on that? The North Country, that's why the closing of Bethlehem and why Dalton was suggested as another landfill, but that's on hold and probably not likely to happen. But what's the cost of transportation going to be for those towns in the North Country?
Yeah.
Because of the rail center would be, they're projecting to be somewhere between Haverhill and Lawrence. Everything would be trucked down there and then by rail go out. But it's following the Massachusetts model with everything that they have goes out of state.
So definitely more ahead, but I do think maybe And I know Jen we've done some sessions on this topic over the years and probably. So the second topic is, and I'll just be real quick, it's just Summersworth Plaza. It's in the news media recently, I think, about some redevelopment or renewed interest in the plaza. We've got a couple of new businesses going in there. Nostros, which is a mixed martial arts gym program, very popular, very successful in downtown Summersworth. They ran out of space essentially, and so they bought a larger facility or building, within the plaza for their operations, and that's being renovated right now as we speak. They hope to open early in late May or early June. So, and a couple other businesses are going in there as well. There's going to be like a restaurant and maybe a possible with that restaurant, maybe a grocery store as well. And there's a PT physical therapy group that just moved in and a laundromat's there. So, and we've done some other landscape improvements on the plaza as well, just FYI.
I just want to correct myself. I think I said 20 cents. I meant $20 versus $100. So maybe you translated that, but
Yeah.
I heard myself when I said that correct.
So,
So just real quick, I wanted to mention that HUD has announced 2.0, the federal opportunity zones for municipalities. There were, in the first round of this about a decade ago, there were several communities, there were 27 communities throughout the state that got designated. In our region, it was Durham, Dover, Somersworth, and Rochester that had 7 tracks that were part of Opportunity Zone 1.0. It looks like from the map that they have on their website, a second census tract in Somersworth is eligible, as well as a census tract in Farmington. So this summer, I believe sometime in July, the governor should be nominating those census tracts to the Treasury for designation. There'll be 25% of the eligible tracts that are going to be submitted for that designation. So I know Farmington is looking at it as to whether or not it makes sense for us to move forward. I get the sense from the selectmen that they want to pursue this. So I don't know, Mike, if you know if Somersworth is going to pursue the second census tract that is eligible, or if Durham and Rochester are also going to be participating in the 2.0. But I'd love to talk to anybody that has experience with the opportunity zones. That's not something that I've got a ton of experience with, but how it worked, what were the benefits? It's my understanding that it has a lot to do with not paying back capital gains taxes after, a business decides to sell after X amount of years because it doesn't take into that depreciation. So that's about really all I know, but their intent, from my understanding, is that they really want to gear this 2.0 more towards business retention. So I wanted to just throw that out there. July is going to be when the governor makes those nominations. So if you haven't already brought it back to your communities that the economic zones, that they're going through that process for 2.0, I would recommend it. And like I said, I'd love to chat with any of the communities that have existing opportunity zones on how that's worked.
yeah, we'll follow up on it, Kyle, with probably, Michelle. Thanks.
A couple from Dover, 2 larger development projects that are in the works, still a ways out, but they've been in Foster's recently, so just wanted to flag. Folks haven't had a chance to see. One is a large development project out on Littleworth Road. That it's the same developer as Point Place in Dover. If folks are familiar, it's a similar idea, mixed use. Does have some HUD restricted housing in it, trying to look at transportation options. So they just had a community meeting last week, I think, on it. So there's starting to be more info, still early. Also, some things have moved forward with the redevelopment of the Liberty Mutual property as well. So if folks are getting, I know pieces, but the Foster's article does a good job, and obviously Dover planning folks as well. So just wanted to flag those for folks as movement happening. And then exciting, sort of more Dover specific, but maybe examples for other communities as well. If folks have been following the waterfront redevelopment, so it's where our old wastewater treatment facility was, now has apartments and restaurants in it. But we just signed a contract or an agreement earlier this week to have a paddle sports company start being able to do kayak rentals. So trying to mix, although it's a little bit higher end apartments, making sure that the park area is very oriented towards public use and access to the water, and having kayak rentals as well. So trying to understand, there's some concerns in the community about it being higher end apartments, but also trying to make sure that folks have access to that green space and access to water as well. So over the next couple of months, hopefully by the summer, that will be all up and running. So come kayak and
Thank you.
take it over.
So this is obviously outside of the scope of Stratford County, but has there been any information on the success or failure of the Costco in Portsmouth or Newington?
Not know.
Yeah, because I feel like that's going to bring a significant amount of worker and traffic into the area. Everything.
Yeah, we can reach out to our colleagues in Rockingham.
What I've heard of that, I don't know exactly. But, they right now are having an issue with the zoning. They want to change the zoning to, business residential. And, as far as I know, that's still under debate. I know from my own experience, changing a zone is a living hell. Right.
Yeah, say,
That's all.
and you know, the project was mentioned, amongst a meeting of the RPC directors yesterday, and I think the general thought was that the residential is not likely to fly in Newington, that they're not gonna be willing to change the zoning to allow, mixed use with residential. So,
In a couple of months, they'll be in conflict with state law.
Mhm.
One other Dover thing that we're kicking off a resilience plan process. So community engagement starts today, this afternoon, after work day. I can act, what does resilient mean, but this will be over the next year, more updates to come.
What exactly does that entail?
Resilience plan or?
Well, what are you handling it, publicizing it and?
Yeah, well, that's part of that. So this is a few events this summer to try to gauge where we are. And then there's probably some surveying and a series of workshops over the fall, starting this kicking off. More to be determined as we go.
So we have a very robust roundtable. Thank you. Minutes from April 17th.
I would move approval of the minutes of April 17th.
I'll second that.
Written by Sarah, moved by Mike. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Oh, roll call. Okay, are you there?
He's not a voting member.
Oh, Ernie's not voting
You
in?
have all
Very
your
cool.
voting members in person.
Excellent.
I'm here.
That doesn't happen very often.
Hi, Ernie, sorry, we were just noting that for voting, you're not a commissioner, so we were just talking about having everyone in person here for voting purposes.
That gets us to our discussion items and its final draft of sets. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just clear this presentation.
No.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Can folks online see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So, Natalie and I are here today to present the draft, SEDS, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, that went out for public comments starting last Friday, so a week ago. That will be open through June 7th. So this is of course not going to work. So just a little bit of background. This presentation is really laid out similarly to how the SEDS is laid out. This is a new 5-year SEDS, so everything is brand new. All of the content has been updated. We have new themes, new lenses, and vision for the region. So the first couple of slides are less the data that's in the SEDS and more of how we got to its current structure, just so everyone has an understanding of kind of the new steps that we went through. But I'll start just by reminding folks of what the Stratford EDD is. We are the 15 municipalities within our SRPC region that are highlighted in this blue-green color. And the main staff that work on economic development are myself, Natalie, who will jump in the presentation to introduce herself and present. And really what we do is we maintain the SEDS for the region, so a regional vision for economic development. We do different technical assistance programs. We do different engagement activities and programs. We bring together economic development stakeholders from across 3 regions, Southern Maine, our region, and region Southeastern New Hampshire for regular collaboration. And then we also do different projects that overlap the regional planning and economic development work. So, what is a SEDS? I think it's important to kind of zoom out a little bit and just remind folks, this is what we did in the plan, and remind folks as well in this room, is that it is the strategic vision for economic development in the region for the next 5 years. It includes several different components, so a regional overview of economic conditions throughout the 15 municipalities or throughout our SRPC region, or the county. Data is available in different ways, so we use it in different representative ways. It includes an analysis of the region's strengths, opportunities, and goals through a SOAR or a SWOT activity. It includes what the strategic direction is for the region and the vision and an action plan as well. And then it also includes a list of submitted priority projects that align with the economic development kind of vision and goals that were laid out in the plan, and a plan for us to evaluate our progress in the SEDS over the 5 years. And also throughout the document is important discussions of economic resilience as well. And the kind of squishiest parts of the SEDS are the strategic direction, vision, action plan. This is where we get to be really visionary in terms of what we want the region to be in the next 5 years in terms of economic development. And this section, along with the priority projects, how they align with the different areas identified, are really shaped by the guidance and feedback we heard from you all as board of directors over several meetings where we engaged with you, and then also with our strategy committee, which was a brand new group that we brought together late last year, early this year. That was the updating of the bylaws exercise we went through. And they have been a great group to work with to help guide the SEDS. So this is the first time we've really had a formalized strategy committee. In the past, we've had kind of a less formal version, a less formal group of people who were really helping to shape the SEDS. And the strategy committee that we developed encompasses a broad range of perspectives. So these were folks that we met with monthly over the last 6 months to help develop the SEDS. And they represent perspectives from K-12, higher education, healthcare, agriculture, planning, nonprofit sector, social services, business technical assistance, transportation, housing. We tried to get together a really diverse group of people to provide their perspectives on the SEDS, and we think that we brought a great group of people together to really help complement the feedback that you all were able to provide throughout this process, and the data that we were able to input to develop a really strong plan. So in the plan, we really highlight that economic development is a broad topic. Most people hear economic development, some of them think, oh, it's just job growth. Some of them think it's just, you know, how much economic growth in terms of business starts and things like that. But the way that the Economic Development Administration defines economic development is that we're promoting economic growth
and we're improving the quality of life in the region. So we're creating an environment for businesses to start, employees to have their needs met, and really trying to create an all-encompassing environment where we foster opportunity across all different levels for people, for families, school systems that are that pipeline for pipeline for careers, and all of the different areas that impact the economy. So, like I said, the SEDS development took together a couple of different areas. We have the strategy committee and board of directors feedback. Because we are also updating our full comprehensive plan as well, we're using the SEDS as the economic development component of that plan. We were able to pull in different feedback we got from the public as well through the different regional events we did last year in person around the region, and then through the big region-wide public survey. So that fed into the SEDS development. And then I think it was last meeting where Rachel announced the data snapshot being released, all of the different data metrics. Those also are a really important component that are incorporated into the SEDS as well. So how our SEDS is structured, if you remember our last SEDS, we had different thematic areas and lenses. For this SEDS, we really wanted to be thoughtful and intentional about creating a vision statement for the region. Our 2021 to 2025 SEDS did not have a written out vision statement. The collective document was the vision, but we worked with our committee to make sure that we developed a vision statement. And then from there, we developed different thematic areas that impact economic development in our region. We developed particular goals in each of those areas. And then we also developed objectives and specific action items to get us there as well. Like our last SEDS, we did also identify lenses, which are areas outside of the themes that impact everything in the document. So those are kind of the cross-cutting areas of the document. So the vision statement that was developed with the help of the strategy committee, with the review and comments that we received from you all a couple of months ago, is here on the screen. It's a little bit longer, but really what it encompasses is that we want, or in the plan, it's identified that the Stratford region needs to be a resilient and thriving place where we leverage the strengths that we have, the natural resources and cultural assets that we have, to be able to create an environment where people can afford to live, build a family, and then where businesses can also start, expand, and grow as well. So the lenses that we identified for the SEDS are, so again, these are these cross-cutting areas that impact all of the different themes and all of the different areas. So we try to be thoughtful about these when throughout all areas of the SEDS are highlighting regional partnerships and collaboration, resilience and future readiness, quality of life and community identity, and then also ensuring that we're thoughtful about age friendliness throughout all these discussions as well. So that includes, folks who may be getting older, and then also ensuring that we're welcoming and meeting the needs of younger individuals, families, people like that. So the four thematic areas that were identified for this SEDS, and I think some of you may remember the activities we did. Our previous SEDS had 9 or 10 different themes, and there was a lot of discussion about how they can be more thoughtfully consolidated. So these were the different areas that were identified as impacting economic development in the region. Things that are impeding economic development, but then also are really important strengths as well that we could leverage more to help us grow. So those are housing, business innovation and entrepreneurship, workforce education and child care, and then ensuring that our communities are healthy and vibrant as well. So a good portion of the document is laid out to discuss different data metrics relevant to the region and then also relevant to those different thematic areas. Capacity for economic development is an interesting metric that's developed by the Argonne National Laboratories. I believe it's the University of Indiana who develops this in partnership with the Economic Development Administration. And what they do is they look at economic development holistically, using EDA's definition of more than just job growth. It's also building that environment for economic mobility and economic prosperity for businesses and individuals and families. And what they do is they look at 56 or 58, I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, different data metrics across a variety of different topical areas. And they create an index or 5 indexes for each county in the nation. And it is a value from 0 to 1 in each of these different areas. And the higher you are, or the closer you are to 1, the more elevated you are above the national average in that area. So 0.5 would be you're in line with the rest of, you're in line with the national average. So for Stratford County as a whole, the 5 different areas, human capital, which is human development indices, economic mobility is in there, financial, which has to do with not just personal and business finances, but also local government finances are in here. Industry is diversity of industry structure, or industry sectors. Infrastructure is public and private infrastructure, and partnerships and institutions is a very interesting metric that covers things like higher education as well. And for Stratford County, all of our values are above that average. Several of our values are considered elevated, especially in terms of human capital, things like quality of life in our region, and our industry mix and infrastructure. So what these metrics highlight is that our region does a good job currently at leveraging the different strengths that we have for economic development. I'm not able to go back. Can you go back again? The slide. Our region does a good job at leveraging the different things that we have, but we've also done a good job at building different areas out to strengthen economic development as supported by these things in terms of our infrastructure and our partnerships and institutions that we have.
Michael, are we holding questions to the end or we have?
Oh, I'm sorry. Ask questions now, ask them at the end, doesn't matter to me.
Does the SEDS reference the source document that does the formula?
Oh, yeah, yep. Yeah, so there is a methodology document linked in the SEDS. It's like 100 and something pages long on how they get to these numbers. But they're very thorough in talking about each of the different metrics that go into here. And the reason that EDA partnered with the Argonne Labs is because they have the capacity to do this for every single county. So it's a really, really representative kind of look at what the capacity for economic development is all over the world. So another metric that we include in the SEDS is economic distress. So the Economic Development Administration measures or defines economic distress as having an unemployment rate at least 1 percentage point higher than the national average, or a per capita income that is 80% or less than the national average. And in order to calculate this at the smallest local level, we look at the different census tracts in our region. And within the Stratford Economic Development District, the latest data we have available is the 2024 5-year estimate from the American Community Survey. And in that data, we have 6 tracts, which are highlighted here in this blue green color, that are defined as economically distressed by the Economic Development Administration. That doesn't mean that there are other areas outside of these places that, might not be considered economically distressed by another person's definition. And that also doesn't mean that, everyone in these blue areas is doing poorly economically. This is just a metric that the EDA requires we discuss in the SEDS. And it's also an interesting way to kind of look at their definition of economic stress. So we have we have the one census tract that covers in Durham and
Middleton?
Middleton, New Durham and Middleton. We have a section of Farmington, section of Rochester, two sections in Durham. And then we also have an area in Dover as well that are considered economically distressed. In the past, previous data in the last says there was a 7th area that was considered economically distressed in Rochester, another census tract. One challenge of this definition of economic distress is that some of these areas have really small populations. So the margins of error are big. So when we looked at, you can't really compare 5-year averages that have overlapping years to each other. It's not recommended, but we were looking at the flip that happened in that census tract that flipped from being distressed to not distressed. And the margin of error is larger than the actual value by several times. So again, this is not a perfect way of looking at economic distress. This is just how EDA wants us to. So now getting into the regional overview. So what we've seen in the latest data for the Stratford region. Our population is projected to grow. Like many other areas in the state, we are constrained by several things, which we will talk about in subsequent slides. But we are the youngest county in the state. Some of that is due to UNH Durham being located here. Others is due to just the different quality of life aspects we have, the cities we have, the different types of people that we draw to the region, and we incentivize to stay in the region. But throughout the different municipalities in our region, in a majority of them, median age is rising. For the different towns and cities. Number of children is declining region-wide. But despite that, we are still the youngest county in the state. Other things that we touch on in the regional overview is we also go through our industry breakdown in terms of jobs in the region and the projections through 2045. What's highlighted here are our largest industry sectors as projected for 2045. So the 4 largest sectors that are projected in that 20-year time frame about are educational services, manufacturing, retail trade, and social services. We also talk a little bit about unemployment in the Fed as well. Unemployment has been historically low. It's a little hard to see, but the unemployment rates here are in the 2s and 3s and 1s, which is quite low. There are several different factors that could be impacting that in terms of labor force availability, number of jobs that are available, the more jobs than there are people looking for work. But labor force and unemployment is a really nuanced topic to discuss because you can really get into the nitty-gritty of, who is the labor force when someone stops looking for a job because they're discouraged, are they counted, different things like that. But we do discuss that a little bit in the slides. But what we do want to highlight here is that unemployment continues to be very low. Sorry, Jim. Yeah, Sarah.
Keeping in mind that I can't see this at all. My question with this kind of regional data is always like, is this capturing jobs in the region, people who live in the region and what their jobs are, or a combination of both? Like if you live in the region, but you don't work in the region, is it just jobs in the region?
So we don't get into it in this presentation, but
Yeah.
in the SEDS, we do that analysis
Okay,
of
cool.
jobs in the region and jobs outside the region. And we have 2 maps that visualize it. It's also discussed in the data snapshot too, if you're interested,
Cool.
where we look at where people who work in the Stratford region but don't live here, where are they coming from and how many of them are there? And then the opposite of that, where people who live in the Stratford region but work outside of it, where do they go and how many of them are there? And what the analysis found is that we have a lot of people in our region who leave our region to go to work.
Thank you.
Mike, if I might,
Sure.
if I'm not mistaken, the table on the left is jobs in the region.
Yes.
The bar chart on the right is people who live in the region.
I need to confirm that.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's
I'm
correct.
certain
I
I'm the
can't
one
read them
on
anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I need to confirm that.
I need a much bigger screen.
Yeah.
I might have missed this, might have addressed it, but what is the significance of the highlight and what are the highlights?
Oh, sorry. So this chart is doing, two things.
I apologize, I'm talking about the one on the left-hand side, not the bar graph, but
Oh,
the,
okay.
the
That-
chart.
Yeah,
The four yellows, what are they and what do they mean?
yeah, so these are the four largest areas, that are projected to have, jobs in 2020.
Okay. What are they?
Educational services, manufacturing, retail trade, and social services. Thank you. And for the next couple of slides, Natalie, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about these themes and then let you.
There you go.
Frozen. No one frozen. Everybody's in the.
Oh, I see team moving. So can
There is
folks
light.
hear us?
Can we hear you?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, sorry. Sorry I was late, everybody.
Oh,
Hello.
no worries.
No, it looks like we just lost Natalie though.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just Natalie seemed to freeze
Hi.
up, so.
There we go.
Sorry. Yeah, I am so sorry. My Wi-Fi dropped and I am joining from my phone, but I'm happy to present. I can see the presentation. Sorry about that. So yes, I will, sorry, Mike, you haven't touched upon this slide at all yet, right?
No, all yours.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So moving on to our first theme of housing, as you can see here, some of the main trends that we're seeing include limited supply, increased prices, and workforce and demographic shifts that have highlighted the need for more varied housing types. So to better understand supply, we look at building permit data, which is to the left, and that shows that building permits in the region have only partially rebounded, even as population growth has steadily grown, which is the green line on the left chart. We also look at the number of seasonal homes in the region as it can impact the overall supply of houses that are available for full-time residents and workers. So to the right, you can see that in the region, roughly 10% of all housing stock is vacant, and of this share, almost 60% was classified as seasonal. Next slide, please. The median sales price in Stratford County has continued to increase, as we can see on the left. Meanwhile, median household income shown on the right have not kept pace. We know that from 2019 to 2024, the median household income in Stratford County increased 21%, while the median sales price increased 73% during that same period. Next slide, please.
Oh, we got a question in the room, Natalie, from Steve.
Sorry, Natalie, can you go 2 slides ago, the seasonal housing, did you say 60%?
That's what I heard too.
And could you just unpack that a little? What are we defining as seasonal housing?
Yes, so of the entire region's housing stock, about 10% is considered vacant. So of that 10%, that share of 10% vacant housing, 60% of homes were, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, only 60% are recorded as seasonal.
So 60% of the vacant rental property.
Exactly, 60% of the 10%, if that makes sense.
What's your definition?
60% of the 10% minus 37%.
I
Sorry.
see Keen.
On the same topic, is there unvacant housing? Occupied housing, I guess, is a better way to say it than unvacant, that is considered seasonal as well. So what percentage of the regional housing stock is seasonal, but inclusive of both vacant and occupied? Or is that not a thing? Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know that we track that. So vacant homes are recorded as such when owners are at a different permanent address on census day, which is April 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. So this slide, we see that higher housing costs and housing related expenses have made it cheaper to rent than to buy a home, even for those who are able to put 20% down payment. So this is despite the fact that rents have also continued to increase every year. Other factors such as inflation, monetary policies, and increased taxes and insurance have also influenced housing affordability. For example, total tax valuations in Stratford County have increased despite municipal tax rates declining. And consumer price index for building materials and supplies has increased by approximately 28% between 2021 and 2026. So in summary, there's limited supply of housing. The sales prices are rising. There is diminished affordability caused by higher interest rates, rising costs of goods and services, and higher taxes, and wages are not keeping pace. And there is also a need for more housing types as a result of demographic shifts, including smaller household sizes. Next slide, please. So our next theme is business, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Here we look at broad economic pressures that are impacting local business operations, such as inflation and higher interest rates. So on this slide, we can see that both have increased sharply, which has impacted costs for businesses and also constrained household spending. In addition, we know that current global conflicts are impacting fuel costs and supply, and this is going to further impact the cost of goods and services, and it's not yet reflected on these charts. So notably, some of the things that we talk about in this sets include key industries that could be impacted, including manufacturing and medical services, and also agriculture. Next slide, please. Some of these pressures are reflected in New Hampshire's household debt patterns, which show that credit card mortgages, auto, and student loan debt have all risen over the past decade, which indicates that many households and businesses are facing higher costs and or having to rely more on credit. Another trend that we're tracking is the sharp decline in SBA business loans, which could in part be tied to recent changes in the loan program that include higher interest rates and less favorable loan conditions, but it could also indicate that business confidence has weakened. Other things that we'll continue to track that are influencing local business operations, entrepreneurship, and innovation include the impacts of shifting demographics and also emerging technologies such as AI. So in summary, so we have the rising cost of goods and services, which has impacted the cost of doing business, and global conflicts are expected to exacerbate this. Higher interest rates that have increased borrowing costs for businesses and entrepreneurs and constrained household spending. Household debt has continued to increase, and there has been a decrease in SBA-backed business loans, which could be a reflection of broader economic factors. Next slide, please. So for our next theme, workforce, education, and childcare, a few trends that characterize the region, as seen briefly before, include low unemployment, a labor force that is largely rebounded from the impacts of COVID, and strong educational and training opportunities in the region that position us as a competitive place to do business. However, demographic and economic shifts, such as declining youth populations, a rise in older populations, and limited workforce and affordable childcare could lead to tighter workforce pipelines. So in this slide, for example, we're seeing that public school enrollment is shrinking, which could mean that less people are will be entering the labor force in the future. Next slide, please. Here, we see that the number of workers over the age of 65 is increasing, which in part could be a reflection of broader economic pressures, such as higher living expenses that may be pushing older people or older adults to stay in the workforce for longer. So in addition to this, we're tracking all of those shifting labor trends and the emergence of new technologies to help us better understand how these are shaping skills and also training needs to meet current and future industry demand. Next slide, please. Looking at trends in childcare, we know that supply lags demand, where there are currently 4,638 childcare slots available and an estimated demand of 5,579 children in the SRPC region. Meanwhile, other challenges include low wages for childcare workers and high costs for families, which, based on these numbers on the screen, we know that they account for over 18% of the Stratford County median household income for just one child. And at the same time, providers are facing staffing challenges. They face barriers around establishing a new business, and they also face high operating expenses. Next slide, please. So in summary, we know that the region is characterized by high quality education and skills training institutions, low unemployment, and a skilled labor force. There are demographic shifts, including decrease in younger populations, lower birth rates, and aging demographics, and the lack of affordable housing and childcare, which are expected to impact the future talent pipeline. We're also seeing broader economic pressures impacting workforce dynamics and reshaping skills and training needs. And lastly, childcare is facing multi-layered challenges, including low wages, high costs for families, and financial and regulatory barriers for providers.
Thanks, Natalie. And for the last theme, I'll talk a little bit about the healthy and vibrant topic. This is a squishier topic in terms of how do you measure a community is healthy and vibrant. So within this section of the set, we lean into some of the research that has been done over the years as to what makes a community vibrant. And also talk a lot about social capital building as well. So the importance of ensuring that communities foster social capital, build connections between people, and meet their needs in terms of, grocery stores being close by, areas being well connected, access to natural resources, access to housing, and different topics like that. Our strategy committee talked a lot about the importance of connecting our communities in more ways than just via roads for cars. They talked a lot about walkability and multi-use paths. They talked a lot about ensuring that our natural resources and recreation areas are protected and also accessible to people to ensure that our quality of life stays high in the region. So some of the data that we've shown on here in this chart, it's a little hard to see, but it's in the sets bigger. These are our land use changes over time. And a lot of the discussion that we have with our strategy committee is how some of our development patterns may not be conducive to healthy and vibrant communities, how much forested land we're losing for development, different types of development patterns are discussed in here. But really in this section, we lean a lot on some of the existing research into what makes a community vibrant and how you build social capital. So also in the sets are a list of priority projects. So these are projects that are submitted by municipalities, government entities, nonprofits in the region for inclusion in the sets. So to be included here after being submitted, we ensure that all projects are in alignment with themes. So we go through them with our strategy committee. So everything that was submitted this past year does show alignment with the different themes and lenses in the sets as supporting economic development. 14 of our local governments submitted projects. In total, we had 61 projects submitted for a total value of projects of over $900 million. And these include projects that are under construction and have funding, all the way to projects that are very kind of high level thoughts and conversations. An example of one is Barrington submitted a project about pedestrian improvements at the intersections of Route 9 and Route 125, how to better connect trails in the area, build sidewalk networks, especially because the schools are right there. And one of the projects that they put into the sets involves investigating whether a pedestrian tunnel under 125 is a feasible option. So there's a broad range of types of products in the sets, and they're all broken out in the actual document. And I will just say too, including a project in the sets does make it eligible for certain economic development administration funding. That funding really doesn't flow very easily or consistently. But another benefit of having a project in the sets is that it shows alignment with the regional plan, makes them more competitive if they do go after other funding sources, public or private. And in the past, we've given letters of recommendation and letters of support for projects that are in the sets as they've gone after. So it is really a broad experience project in the sets. And then lastly, we also have a preliminary action plan in the sets. We've laid out with the help of our committee 48 different actions that SRPC can take over the next 5 years. We had a lot of interest from our committee about building a broader implementation plan for the sets so that we can hopefully try and address a lot of the issues that we've identified. That may be impeding economic development and also foster the different opportunities that we have to support economic development. So in the actual sets, it's listed as a preliminary action plan with just actions for SRPC to consider within what we can do. But our committee is interested in working over the next couple of months ahead of the 1-year update, which will be considered next June, to build out a broader regional implementation strategy with buy-in from different partners and more ways to measure success as well. So what's listed in the plan is preliminary, just stuff that we can do, but we're going to be working with our committee over the next few months to build something a little bit more robust and all encompassing. So in terms of where we're at, we are in the public comment period right now for the sets. That will go through June 7th. This presentation is an opportunity for you all to provide comments, or you're welcome to provide comments, over email or a phone call, later on if you need to digest. We are going to be doing this same presentation with our strategy committee at the end of the month for our last meeting for this kind of development cycle for the sites on May 29th. Public comment period, like I said, will close on June 7th. On June 8th, we'll start the preparation of the public comment log, and we'll be addressing all of the different comments that we get as well. We're also going to be working on laying out the document into its, kind of final form. If you've seen it so far, it doesn't have any pictures in it. It's a lot of text and charts. That's the final formatting, but we're going to be working on finalizing that as well. And then on June 12th, you all will get it in your meeting packet, the final sets with the comments incorporated for you to review ahead of the June 19th meeting. And then at the June 19th meeting, there will be the opportunity for you all to consider it for adoption.
Forgive my ignorance, the board of directors is us.
Is you, okay, all right, yes.
Among other things.
Okay.
Stuff.
Firehouse, you all aware, Commissioner.
Really?
I'm just stacking my bit right here.
The resume gets longer. So, yeah, happy to answer any questions, take comments now, Steve.
I know the strategy committee talked about this a little bit, but in considering childcare is important, but we have to dive into elder care and the impacts of elderly as we get an aging population. How is that going to impact the need for elder care? What kind of jobs will that create? And also, how might that restrain people from participating in the labor force? And also, I think, would there be an impact on town revenue? Because of, I think, the soccer game.
Okay, we will, I know that we don't discuss it too directly in the sense, but that's something we're
Well, I would open that, I don't know if that's my personal question, but does the committee feel like that was the response? So.
Well, it doesn't, you know.
Really
for
quick on
application.
that. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say really quick on that.
Go, go.
Okay, sorry. I can't see anyone on the screen, so I was just gonna say related to the aging population, there is some discussion in the sets about the impacts on the workforce, and how the aging population is gonna leave some gaps in the labor force, especially as it pertains to some of the more skilled trades. So we do have some discussion on that, but yeah, we have to expand on the impacts of social services.
I'd like to jump on that too. I also had a comment to that. And if in a handful of years and Social Security drops by 28%, that number is gonna go up to cover the difference. And I know, I mean, nobody has an answer for this, or I doubt they have an answer for this. But something we should be looking at is assuming that Social Security is gonna take a hit. I'm gonna take a hit, all of us that are in that bucket are gonna take a hit. And I'll be pushing 80 by then, and going back to work doesn't sound like a very good idea to me. And so we are not a poor state. I wouldn't say we're a rich state either, but are there things that we could be looking at regionally or statewide to kind of offset the hit that we might take? And I mean the elderly. So it's food for thought more than anything.
And I would just add to echo the, finally being out of the childcare mode and now starting to research the elder care is on the horizon. It's incredibly overwhelming and it's gonna blow my childcare costs out of the water. And yes, parents have resources to help with that, but it's gonna fall on. So I think it's a good.
Yeah, and the folks in the middle are gonna get squeezed from both ends.
Change it.
You're gonna lose some more.
A little bit.
Not much left. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
Yeah, to change the subject a little, going back to the housing. Do you have, and this has always been a curiosity for me, because as a planning board member, I often think about this. Do you have data on the housing or economic development as well? How many developers are local versus not? Because I think the local developers have a much better picture. They have an investment in the community. They understand what people are asking for, whereas developers from out of the area, they just want to get it built and make some money. I mean, it's really an attitude difference. And I'm just wondering if you've ever looked at something like that. And I don't know how you measure that, but you know, I think knowing who's local versus not matters, just from a planning board perspective. The other question I had, with regards to the distressed areas, I'm looking at that and you know, there are people who are happy being in, you know, they like open space, they like forested areas, they don't mind traveling to work. They like the silence, they like the animals, and they don't want that. So I find it hard sometimes to say that I would find it hard personally to say that that's a stressed community, because that's not what they're looking for. And their zoning reflects it and all of that. And so I kind of look at that and go, you know, how do you measure that? But it's a factor.
Yeah, distress is, so this definition of distress is required by EA being says, this is how they define it. You know, either unemployment 1% above or 80% per capita income less than the average. I agree that it's tough to compare these areas to a national average and say exactly what you're saying of like, are those communities in the north of our region actually like distressed economically? but it's in here because it's required.
And the first thing that those two zones in Durham, that's where two of our largest student housing
Yeah.
elements are.
Just to clarify, oh, I forgot my question. The distressed is just those two items, there's nothing further to look at, that's all they look at are those two.
That's all
One,
EDA
okay.
looks at.
Alright.
If you meet one of those conditions,
Yeah.
you're considered
Probably
distressed.
do. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
that's why we also included, the capacity for economic development at the region or at the county level, because I think it's more reflective of the collective strengths we have. Like, we have industry in our more developed areas, but then we also have different types of industries and different types of human capital, metrics in our more rural areas, which also impact economic development positively. Just because an area, doesn't have factories in it, doesn't mean that it's not promoting economic development in the full definition of economic development, which includes quality of life. So I think that's why our human capital measure here is as high as it is, being at 0.83. So well above what the national average is, being 0.5.
I had a quick, and I will fully admit, having not gone back to reread the section, but can we put caveats in that thing to say like that it's student housing? I mean, I think the Dover example, like some of the most expensive houses in Dover are in that block. So I was like I'm like looking at the map, I'm like, I don't know why this corner came up, because it's, but maybe there's some things to just put our own, what we know about the region, not to dispute it, but just to like provide our own flavor to what,
Modify this.
yeah, and just like some asterisks, just be like, this is what these.
They're distressed because they get 75% of their income is paying for their mortgage.
Different kind of distress.
And we
It's a $3 million house.
Yeah.
And we tried to highlight, as, I guess, professionally as we could in the document that like, this is EDA's definition and it's required to be here. In a sense, that's just what it is, but, we can strengthen that. Say like, this is just how we define it, what's required, even though it may not be accurately reflected. There were a couple.
You had described in one of the slides that if you've got a capital project that's on the list, it's more favorable.
Yeah.
Can you explain how we know whether or not projects are on the list and how to nominate them?
Yeah, so, we do project solicitation. I can't remember the exact date we started it, but it took about a month and a half early in the year where we email all of our municipal contacts, town managers, public works, anyone who submitted a project in the past. We also have a broad contact list of people who represent municipalities, who could provide information on existing projects and communities that could be good for funding that align with the economic development priorities here, or, an idea for a new project. So we did a bit of outreach, in terms of emails, phone calls, some direct outreach as well too. There were a handful of projects that were submitted in the past, that we reached out to, so this is not a new list. Most of these projects were in the last sets, but as long as we reach out to the people who submitted it and they say, yes, we want to continue keeping it in the sets, and they provide us with updates, even if the update is we have no updates, it can stay in. There were a handful of communities that chose to take projects off actively, because they were either things that they were doing themselves and they're almost done, but they're already done, or it's just not a priority anymore. And then we also had some communities who just, chose not to continue submitting projects.
Do they need to be public projects?
So it needs to be submitted by a public entity. Like public-private projects are eligible as long as the public entity is there.
Is that list in the sense?
Yep, so the full list is in the sense, we just have, project value if it's a new municipality or organization and, title of project. But if you are interested in kind of the bigger list, because we ask, a lot of details about the project, anything people can provide in like long narrative form, we can provide that as well too. We just don't include it in the sets because it would make the document so long. But if there is a particular project that you're like, oh, what are they doing there? What is that align? We're happy to send it to you.
Thank you.
So to follow up with Leslie's question, is anything that a town submits included? Or is there a vetting process? So I can say if I'm making crosswalks, I won't have to be a priority project.
Yeah, so there is a process to submit it, which is, just answering a questionnaire really. But we need to bring all of the projects to the strategy committee to review.
Okay.
So
There is some filtration.
yes, we've never had a project that I've heard of where we're like,
Take it out.
that we're like, this is not related to economic development in the sense at all. It will be very hard to submit a project that doesn't have some impact on economic development. Like things like wastewater treatment plant upgrade, stuff like that, that all impacts economic development.
Of course, intersectionality.
Yeah.
And I'll say, when, projects are being submitted, that intake form includes like, identifying how that project directly relates to the themes and goals of the sets.
But you can just put anything down, right?
That passes great face, yes.
Like, yeah, it's not, it's like, oh, I want the town manager's paycheck bigger. Let's see, you're right.
It's a hypothetical
So,
question, Chris,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just real quick, back to the mission statement, definition of volunteer capacity. Are you trying to expand? Maybe it was a slide after that. It was right at the beginning. There it is. Lenses.
Okay.
Copy.
Yeah, so, what we were trying to get at, when we worked with the committee, was really, when discussing volunteers, talking about board members in communities, as well, because they're technically volunteering.
Recruiting them or maintaining them or
I think that that's.
all of the above?
Yeah, I think that that would all be included.
You don't get paid?
The coach check coming.
It's in the mail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. This might be a question for later, but, and it's my first SEDS process. So why is a tract selected as opposed to something more granular? Just from a data perspective, looking at projects, is it, you could use blocks or block groups to try to winnow out some blocks, some tracks for an entire town versus maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious.
So in terms of the economic distress.
Yes, yeah, specifically. This gets back a couple discussions ago, but didn't have a chance to.
Yeah. So census tracts are typically the smallest geographic measure that federal data sets go to where it's considered reliable. We have several census tracts in our region that cover multiple municipalities just because they're so small. Whereas if, we try to look at the data at the municipal level there, it would just be way too unreliable. So I think that's probably part of the reason why the Economic Development Administration chose to do it this way. But yeah, there are shortcomings, for sure, in this measure.
Thank you.
So comment period is open, you can submit them to Mike.
Yep, you can, email, is probably the easiest way, but happy to, have a discussion as well too, like from in person, just let me know. You can send them to Natalie, but we're trying to keep them all in one place. And then like I said, we will be, compiling all of the comments. Once the public comment period closes June 7th, on June 8th, we'll compile the public comment log. We'll do all of our addressing of the public comments. And then on June 12th, when you receive the final draft of the sets, it'll include that public comment log at the end and how we address them.
And Mike, this is available on the website?
Yep, so this is posted online. We could share the link out at the wall after the fact. It's also sitting at the Somersworth, Rochester, and Dover City Halls and the Somersworth and Rochester Public Libraries as well. On the public purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Executive committee slate, Jen?
Yeah, so every year in June, we adopt, or we, elect, excuse me, our executive committee members as well as officers. So each year, your executive committee has just a one-year term. So it is time to put it out there and say to our current executive committee members, do you wish to remain? And also, or anyone else, if you are not on the executive committee, but you might want to join the executive committee, so please reach out. We will assemble that slate for you all for your consideration at the June meeting, where we will conduct our annual business items.
I believe we're currently short 2 alternates.
We are currently short one alternate. One alternate, yes. We currently have a full 7-person executive committee, and we have one alternate. Actually, I think we can have 3 alternates even. So I don't think there's any problem with that. I don't think our bylaws limit the number of alternates we make. But we traditionally try to have at least 2.
And the reason we got started late today is because we were waiting for a quorum at the executive committee and didn't get started till 12 minutes after the hour. So a few extra alternates would be handy.
Yeah.
How do I put my name down for all members?
You just let us know and we have.
I mean, you just did.
Throw me on the fire.
Instant gratification.
Okay, love that. I do also want to mention, that, our June 19th meeting date, it is Juneteenth, that day. And I know we kind of went back and forth, internally here. Because we do, for staff, have that as a holiday for our staff. Ultimately, we decided that there are not that many of us that need to be present for a meeting to proceed on the staff level. So like Mike, myself, and Megan, the core that will absolutely need to be here for that meeting. We are going to, we're gonna schedule our holiday, we're gonna flex our holiday and take a different Friday in June. Because what we recognize is it's a lot easier for a small number of us to reschedule our day off than it is to get a quorum of you here. And so we're gonna keep the June 19th date. I guess the question that I have is, does that pose any impact to you all and your ability to be here?
I probably won't be here, but you'll be okay without me. I'm like 50-50.
Okay.
Daycare's closed.
I won't have to be behind buses on the way here.
Yeah, I don't know if the school, oh yeah, school should be out. Yeah, no, month in a row, I made the mistake of not bypassing high school to get here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Grant opportunities.
Grant opportunities. I might toss this to Kyle as well here. There are several different grant opportunities that are open right now. They are good ones that we should all be looking at. Rec trails, Mark, that due date is coming up very soon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, actually, I have it here, May 29th.
Yep.
If your community has a trail project that is trying to work forward, Mark can help you out with that application process. Coastal resilience grants, we only have 5 communities in our region who are eligible for coastal resilience grants. It's, Dover, Durham, Newmarket, Rollinsford, Madbury. Generally, they're environmental resilience projects that would be eligible. Also, what we all affectionately call PREPA grants. Those are open. I know last year we had Abigail here to do a presentation about the PREPA grants, and we had a really big window of time to scope out and develop some projects. This year we do not have that giant window of time. And so those applications are due mid-June. So if you have a project and you have not already spoken to Kyle and our land use and environmental planning team, I would encourage you to do so. Project Builder is one. Lindsay, you might actually be able to speak to that one better than I can, for Lisa. So
it's just a great opportunity if you have ideas that are, sort of need a little support to go from idea to being ready to apply to something, particularly around climate or flooding. It's an opportunity to get a little bit of support in turning your idea into work, just an idea.
Yes, and then on the source water protection side, there are land protection grants. Those are open now as well, and those applications are due May 28th, and that is land protection for the purposes of keeping our drinking water supplies clean. So, wanted to mention those all are out there and available, and please reach out if you have a project that you would like to partner on.
I have a comment on the recreational,
Hold on, Kian, we got one person first.
on the recreational trail projects. I believe, the last I read, which was about last week, the prerequisite of applying for it, you have to have attended a class or a session by April 29th.
I went.
Mark went. So if you coordinate with Mark, you can use him as your
There you go, Mark.
checkbox. Yeah. something like that.
I don't have an issue with that. I just want to make sure someone doesn't apply for it, don't know anything about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, so also on the topic of recreational trails, if anybody would like a letter of support, Seacoast Area Bicycle Riders, if it has bike or pedestrian implications, would be happy to, write a letter of support for most types of trails, for most types of purposes, if you're going to be walking or biking them. So please reach out to me if you'd like that, or that could help lend some weight to your grant. I don't know who's applying at this point, but I'd be happy to work with you. Summersworth is okay. I will
send them to them ASAP.
Yeah, let's chat. We've done this for other towns and cities, and I'd love to do it again for anybody in the room. So,
Ian, my name is Curtis. I'm in Durham. I can't read your last name. Would you mind spelling it out for me, please?
Absolutely. McDermott, McDermott.
Thank you. Thank you for that offer of support.
Do those grants include, state forest type trails? For instance, in Northwood, the crank pullers maintain, it's a snowmobile club, maintains a lot of trails in town. Most of it is done volunteer wise. Does any of this grant money help offset their costs? Because they have all the big groomers and everything.
Yeah.
It's really quite an operation.
Yes. Snowmobile clubs are like 2/3 of the applications every year.
So they probably already know that.
Yeah. I mean, I can find out, but yeah.
Same as ATV clubs. Yeah. Because I'm a trail administrator for an ATV club.
Yeah.
That's why I knew about it. I've applied for them several times.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce a new staff person.
Okay.
We have Lisa Wise has joined us as a new staff person. We have a bad habit of pilfering staff from our friends, so I apologize to Lindsay. Previously Lindsay's coworker at UNHC grant. But we are very happy to have Lisa join us here on our land use and environment team. She is jumping right in and working on several of our flood resilience related projects. She is the staff planner with Stratford, and she's going to be jumping into a few other things too. So, it's kind of happy to be here.
Just reminded me of something when you said UNH student. So, Durham Planning Board just had a presentation from a capstone team on sustainability that had to do with nature-friendly lighting. It is on our May 13th DCAT. If you want to watch it, and we are working on getting all the materials posted so that they will be shareable but they included a sort of a step-by-step user's guide for anybody, whether they're a resident or a company, commercial entity, to be able to walk through their property and try to decide what the best choices for lighting are in a way that would balance human safety and security with nature friendliness in regards to circadian rhythms and things like that. I think that's going to be a really good thing. One of the capstone members is a graduating planning student who has a job at Upper Valley RPC. So
Love to see that.
just, I wanted to share that. I think it would be it's going to become a very useful resource.
Can I just, plug our annual meeting? I'm sure you're getting, the notices for June 25th at the Oaks Golf Club in Somersworth, 4:30 to 7:30. We have 2 out of 3.
All three.
All 3, okay. Fantastic. So we have the commissioners from DOT, so that's David Rodriguez, Robert Scott, who is the commissioner of DES, and Lucy Lang is the commissioner from BEA. So we thought it would be really great to have sort of high-level leadership at those 3 state agencies as they sort of coincide with the RPC MPO and EDD of our work at the Planning Commission. So while we're, overall looking to celebrate 55 years in planning, we also wanted to be looking forward. And so we thought having the perspective of the leadership of those state agencies would be a really good way to get their perspective of where they see the state going and how the Planning Commission can help sort of move along with that and help municipalities kind of meet those larger goals. So I think it's shaping up to be a really great event. The subcommittee is working really hard on kind of pulling some past projects together, how the region has changed over the last 5 decades. And I think that our choice in speakers is going to be a really great discussion. So I hope everybody can make it. And if you haven't already registered, please do so.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
One sec, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've got one more comment. So I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Bike to Work Day. It is the 3rd Friday in May every year. It's a little rainy today. It was the reason I was late. I was out in Kittery handing out free breakfast to people who work at the shipyard. But I wanted to invite on behalf of the Dover Transportation Advisory Commission and our planning department, anybody who wants to come by the Dover Transportation Center today at 4 p.m. We're doing a Bike from Work event. So that's just, again, a chance to meet people out who are out riding. The weather should be cleared by then. So I hope if anybody wants to go, I'll be out there with members of our planning department. And then also 2 other opportunities that have come up in June before our next meeting. I'll be in Milton on June 3rd discussing safety for bikes and e-bike safety with the elementary school. So I'll probably pop by City Hall and see who's around or Town Hall on that day. And I would love to see people if people want to chat. On June 3rd, I'll be in Milton. And June 12th, the same topic in New Durham. We'll be talking about specifically bike safety, but then also as e-bikes become more popular, especially amongst the youths, we need to talk about e-bike safety as well. So just some opportunities. If you're around 12th and you're in New Durham, I'd love to meet in person. I will be in the room with you guys again, probably for the next meeting, but it just, these are some cool opportunities to talk about safety. So thank you. Sorry to delay. Some exciting things happening. So.
Thank you. Already voted. We're adjourned.
I'll second it again if you need to.
It was